All right, you guys, it is Wednesday Night Live. I saw somebody say it's Wednesday Night Live. Yeah, it is kind of Wednesday Night Live. It's a bonus session for the Acrylic Landscape Workshop and Challenge. And I, of course, am not here by myself. I've got my good friend, Mr. Peter Stout, in the house.
What's up? Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, so these are, not on the schedule, but if we have the chance to do a bonus session, sometimes we'll do it. And it's just kind of a fun way to hang out, do a little painting, and also just try to, help anybody with any follow-up Q&A if you have anything like that. So that's what tonight is going to be. Peter, are you excited to be here?
I'm excited. I'm very excited. We're going to be hanging out, chatting with you guys. We will be answering general painting questions, but we also really want to answer any remaining questions you have about the membership. If you aren't a member yet, you've got 7 hours and 58 minutes to sign up at this price. Lots of people have already taken the leap. You won't regret it. Good stuff. Good stuff. So
I love this. Michael Dean says, born ready. They're anticipating that question. Are you ready? Born ready. Yeah. Super fun, you guys. I see Cindy say I joined with the lifetime membership today. So excited for you also. Very fun. Let's see. Somebody's complimenting the music. Hey, cool. Nice. Yeah, great. Super fun, you guys, to be together. Glad that everybody is here. And so today, what's going on weird is I'm having a hard time showing you exactly the big picture of the image, but you can see, I believe that Peter's got the link somewhere. Is that right, Peter? Maybe.
Oh, the reference photo?
Yeah, reference photo.
Yeah, the reference photo. Yeah, I can drop it in chat.
So we'll get the reference photo
description, just so you guys know.
In the description and whatever. But I'm using a basic reference photo of some trees, but really what I wanted to do is I'm not painting exactly what I see. I'm just going to be kind of taking the essence of what's there and trying to make a painting out of it. There's some things that I really love, like it's a slope looking at kind of a forested area. There's sunlight breaking through, and there's a bunch of trees. And I'm just taking the idea of it, taking some of the trees that I like, and I'm going to put it into a square format painting here. Yep. But that's what that's all about. So look at this. Oh, Sandra is on a 3-week road trip. Nice.
Very cool.
Very fun. Yeah. I think that it's such a beautiful day outside. I mean, I was asking Peter if he was excited to be here, and I was kind of worried about what he was going to say, because I was thinking he might say, you know what? I'd rather be outside right now because it's gorgeous.
Not exactly. My wife is going to the golf course for dinner with a friend, and I was like, I'm a little jealous. They're going to sit out in the sun, and it's going to be great. So. Yeah.
No, so
anyway, I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you, Peter, for being here, and thank you all for being here too. I know it's gorgeous where a lot of you are too, and you could be a lot of other places. So we thank you for being here, and we're going to make it a fun night. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over here and try to show my screen, my canvas, and all this kind of stuff. As you can see, I've got kind of a orange-ish type background. I don't know. I toned this a long time ago. So if I was guessing, I'd say I probably took some of my red and some of my yellow, and I probably had some leftover paint. Honestly, that was probably what it was. It was just some leftover paint, and I just went around with it. And then you can kind of see that I've painted or drawn on the design. And like I told you before, I during the workshop, I very specifically did not use anything except for a pencil, as I could have just done this in a pencil, but I ended up using a little acrylic marker here. If you need that, I'm sure one of our friends who is an Acrylic University member can find or guide you toward where you could find one of those. They're just on Amazon. They're cheapies. They're just easy to find and easy to use. There's nothing magical about them. You could do this with a pencil, but you can kind of see that I've drawn a couple trees here. These are the ones, the light's going to be coming up here. Up in this top corner, you can see a horizontal type image there. And so I'm, of course, scrunching this up and I'm doing a square format. So I'm going to be adjusting and looking at the reference photo, mostly for lighting, for a few details on trees, but not for the composition so much. I also want to add, like there are some trees that are back further in the distance. And so I'm going to work on getting some of that like atmosphere, right? As we're talking about trees, water, and atmosphere, I could add a little bit of a lake right here, and then we'd have all three in here. I'm not going to do it, but I could. Maybe I'll just put a drop of water somewhere in this painting. Okay, so you guys, I forgot. I'm going to take off this green right here because that's for something else that I was using.
Is that for the YouTube video?
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
it was. Yeah, not so much for this, but so I'll get rid of some of this, clean up the mix here. I will tell you what my colors are. They're pretty normal, I have cadmium yellow light, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, Mars black, titanium white, and this red. I saved it for last because it's a little different. It's actually pyrrole red. And the reason I put it out there is because I just saw this on my, I don't know, I got this from a friend of mine who was doing these huge murals. Whoa. And he had all this acrylic paint. So we kind of traded a little bit of stuff, and I got a bunch of big, huge amounts of acrylic paint from him. And I've never really used it very much. And I thought, I'll just squeeze some out. So that's that. It's kind of like, I look at this as similar to a naphthol red or a cadmium red medium, maybe cadmium red light, but it's going to be somewhere in that range. It leans towards orange. Okay, I've already seen people say they were born ready, so I guess I better get going.
All right. Janet Tonello asks, that scraper looks amazing. Any idea where we can get one?
Oh, yeah. You can get this at a paint store or a hardware store. This is a paint scraper, kind of like a painter's tool. I was a house painter for many, many years, and I have those kind of things. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to start putting in some of my dark values. In fact, now that I think about it, I better get a little bit more black on my canvas. On my palette. Just a little bit there.
I'm behind. Okay. I waited for the wet palette because I got so fed up with my paint drying out too fast. Best thing. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll change to what you can do with acrylics for sure.
Yep. She says, today I finished the ocean badly, and tomorrow I'll start atmosphere. I already bought Lifetime. Awesome. Welcome.
Yeah, cool.
Welcome to the Lifetime membership.
That's really cool.
How much is the Lifetime membership? It's about $13.49, split up across 4 payments.
I think it's 14, closer to 13.96 or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Something like that. We're not that great at math, guys. We're more into art. Art's more of our deal than math.
Which, you'd pay more for that for 1 quarter, and you'll learn more than you would through a whole art school. So,
yeah.
Jed, if you don't use all your blobs of paint, do you just put them back in your paint box?
No, I just leave them out here because I'll just put the cover on. You know, this comes with a little cover. This is a sponge under here with special paper that soaks it up, and so it can stay on here and it won't dry out. If you're not familiar, somebody can explain that this is the Masterson Stay Wet palette, and it's a nice tool to have in your acrylic painting toolbox.
Won't they get runny? No. You need to make sure that I've seen a few people have trouble with this. You need to make sure that you pretty thoroughly squeeze out your sponge or press out the water. Make sure it drains enough.
Yeah. And I screw mine up still too sometimes. Like there are times when I don't squeeze out enough and I'll come out and it's like really runny or,
yeah,
you know, that kind of thing. So it does happen. But I generally I can figure out how to make it work, that it's not such a big deal.
Teresa bought monthly, went and picked up supplies to start new member orientation Friday. I can't wait. Let's go, Teresa.
Nice. Very fun. Awesome. Yeah, that's super awesome. Super awesome.
Gretchen says, where's Renee?
Renee is, I believe, inside the house. Do you want me to get her?
Bring her on the stream?
I can see if she'd be interested, but then I'd have to walk inside. But I can do it. I'm okay with that. If you're okay with that.
Screw-ups are just learning experiences? Exactly. Screw-ups are learning. It's inseparable. You can't learn without screwing up.
Yeah. That's one of the best truths to lay hold of when you are learning something, is that failure is a huge part of learning and should be embraced and not tried to, you know, we often try to avoid it so much.
What is the best way to have Friday picture downloaded before the 4 p.m. session? Not sure exactly what you mean by that.
I think you're saying. I think they're saying, if we're doing this, how would you find it on a normal? If we were doing a normal, like a non-workshop type of event, so like how could you find and download the reference photo? And I'll say sometimes we have it way more in advance. If we're doing a scheduled event that we've thought about longer, we'll try to make that available for you. Generally, if it's a YouTube event, you can find it in the description of the event. Yeah. And we usually will send out the link early in the week and that kind of thing. So you try. Something like this, I do apologize. I didn't know what I was going to paint until just a little while ago. So makes it pretty hard for you to know if I don't know. And that's just because I don't know what I was thinking about. We kind of planned this not that long ago. I think we just confirmed it yesterday, actually. And then I just totally forgot about picking a reference photo. I just was planning on getting on and just doing something, I guess, but realized about an hour ago, I better get a reference photo picked.
Hi there from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Welcome. I was born in Coeur d'Alene.
Were you really?
Yep.
How come I didn't know that? That's funny.
I don't know.
Coeur d'Alene. Yeah. You know, I was talking with our daughter Willow because if you didn't hear me the other day, I was bragging that she won this event that she was at the other day for gymnastics. But part of what was so funny about it is I was kind of bribing her. I was saying, if you beat your teammate, because she's come in second place to her teammate all year long, and I was just like, I don't know, I was just like saying, hey, if you win this, I'll take you and your friend to Wings and Waves, which is in Oregon. So, some of you are from Oregon. Some of you know probably exactly where I'm talking about. It's this water park, and they, of course, after she won, wanted to go do it the next day, and we're saying, no, that's not going to work. We're not doing it tomorrow. We're not doing it, but we can do it another time. But that got us thinking about other places we could go, because I was kind of open to different ideas, and one of them was Silverwood, and I was looking that up. That's actually pretty close to Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So what is awesome?
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah. We were there.
Oh, really?
I think last summer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or the summer before. It was one of those. But yeah, me and friends went to Silverwood, spent the whole day there. It was fantastic. And then we drove through the town I grew up in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or not grew up in, sorry. I was there till I was like 5 or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay. So, but you recommend and like Silverwood?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was the wave pool. Personally.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it depends on what you want to do. I think if she'd rather do water stuff, maybe go to the other place. Not that the Silverwood stuff is bad, but I think there are better amusement parks for water stuff. But the wave pool is awesome.
Okay, got you. Well, because it is way more just a full-on amusement park, right?
Yes, yeah. They have great coasters and stuff like that. So it's more like that than it is like a water place specifically, you know.
Yeah, and I don't actually think that they care so much about the water park, as they do the best time possible.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad to hear good things. I mean, I've only heard good things about Silverwood, but it was, from kids usually. Mm-hmm. So I don't always know how true that is.
We had a total blast, man. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, there's not. I mean, that's kind of the biggest, closest.
It is.
Amusement park. There really isn't anything else.
The Midwest and the South have Six Flags like everywhere.
Yeah. Coeur d'Alene is so beautiful. So I'm just thinking about the time that I've spent in Coeur d'Alene, and it's zero. It's literally zero time in Coeur d'Alene. I've driven through it a ton of times, and it looks amazing. I mean, you're up on that highway that kind of goes high over. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you're driving through, you kind of are looking down on the lake. And
yeah.
It's super. It's a super beautiful place to drive. But I honestly don't think I've even stopped in Coeur d'Alene. It's weird. I don't know why. Yeah. I've driven through there so many times. I can't remember a single time that I've stopped there.
It's a great place to go vacation for sure on the lake. So I've heard.
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely looks like that. Yep. Looks like a great, wonderful vacation.
Great Wolf Lodges are fun, says Colleen. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, Great Wolf Lodge. Yeah, there is one of those in Washington, close by. The only thing I've heard about that from other parents actually is that it's a lot of little kids there. And I think that would have been fun for Willow a while ago, but I think it'd be less fun for her now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Linda says, I'm new to this. I'm the one that asked soft body versus hard body. Haha, we'll never forget it's heavy body. How do you select the colors that you do? Is it inspiration or is there a method?
Okay, so I'm totally I know that there's a whole bunch back there that needs to be filled in. And because of the way that I paint, it's kind of backwards and all that. Like a lot of you would have put on the background first, but I'm not. So I've got a big brush out and I'm kind of just filling in. And I have this greenish type color that I'm adjusting a little bit here and there. What I want is I want it to be cooler than these light areas and a little bit more subdued. And so I just mixed a little bit of red in, which will make it a little bit more like a somewhat of a violet color. But almost all of this is just, it's not that important what exact color it is. It's the feel of the color that I'm going for. And I want it to be pushed back. I don't want it to compete with the highlights of the front. And I'm going to actually do a lot of shaping of trees out of these colors that I'm putting in the back. And that'll make more sense later if you don't know what I'm talking about now. But I'm really just trying to fill in space. And as we go, I will adjust it more and more. So I'm just kind of making small variations here. And it's not based on anything so much consciously, except probably subconsciously, just kind of like these. I know that basically anything I mix out of here is going to be okay. It's not going to be really crazy, just because I know the way that the limited palette works. So that's one saving grace. I am not worried that it's going to be ugly, but there's not a lot of real conscious thought, just small variations, seeing what how those little variations can work together. Yeah, sorry I don't have a better answer. It's fun, that's all. It's fun, and it's kind of experimental because I don't know exactly how it's going to look. But really, I'm just going for an effect.
So somebody asked, is Jed keying in on certain branches from the photo it's negative paint or just hunting for different places to put them in the painting? My understanding is that he's using this much more as like a loose reference to get the idea. But what do you think, Jed?
Yeah, I mean, when I drew out a few, I had, I kind of looked at the reference and I put in a few. So some of them are dark, obviously. And then there's a couple places where, all I did was I just left a little bit of the orange showing. But I'm not doing too much, just a little bit. And then later, if I need to come back and add in a few, I will do that on top. And it should work. Sometimes maybe I would look back and think, I wish I would have left a few more spots for trees or branches, but it's just paint. You can change it. You can do something different even later. But the feel I'm going for is cooler, and so more blue, more violet in the background, more green if it's leaning towards green. In the foreground, to have more of the oranges showing. It'll still have some greens up here, but I'll try to make, and some of them I probably should be putting in now, but they're going to be generally, I'll probably make it a little bit more darker, a little bit darker here. I'll change some of the values a little bit, and so that stuff goes into the distance a little bit more. And, go ahead, Peter.
No, you first.
Oh, no, I was going to say something very unrelated.
Okay. Not Deb, sorry. Ludmilla says, can Jed repeat the colors he's using?
Yeah. Cadmium yellow light, pyrrole red, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue.
Nice.
Black, white. What I was going to say is that my goal for you as you're learning to paint is, it's this gradual change from, I think that copying is one of the best, if not the best way to learn in the beginning, because you don't know even really what to copy, like you wouldn't. So all you do is you find something that you love and you try to emulate it, right? And so you're copying everything. You're copying the exact colors that are used, the exact brush strokes that are used, and everything as much as you can, because that's imitation, and that's how you discover things. At the beginning, you're like, oh wow, okay, if I do this and this and this, it will do, the effect is like this. And maybe by seeing somebody else do it, you wouldn't have known that, because you couldn't have imagined it, and you didn't know how to use those colors or that tool or whatever it is. And so it becomes this big epiphany. And then over time, the goal is that you become more and more familiar with the tools. You become more and more familiar with the methods, with the colors, with design, with perspective, and all these elements that make up a painting. And you become so familiar that you're less reliant on exact tools, exact colors, exact, reference photo, exact copying, exact that kind of thing. And you're more like, oh, I see. We're working, the principles behind this are, I've owned them. They become part of me. And now I can experiment myself. I can take what I'm learning and I can put it into something that is pretty unique to me. And it's helping me discover who I am as an artist. And so there might be times when I say things that are more geared towards a beginner artist, and there might be times when I say something that's more geared towards like an advanced artist, or somebody who's trying to learn and discover who they are in art, and they're a little bit further along. So if you ever hear me say something like, don't worry about having the exact color, that's a little bit more for the person who's been around and kind of has a bit of an understanding of how things work. But I totally get it, that at the beginning, you just kind of need to have the exact everything, at least as close as you can, because it's a little bit of an assurance that I'm not seeing differences because I'm using the wrong X, Y, or Z, right? It's more like, okay, I see that I have this, I have everything that is the same. My painting is still, what is the element that needs to grow? Where can I make the change? Because you can kind of rule out it's the tool or it's the color. And I think that if you can navigate those and know that ultimately it's not, you will know the colors, you'll know the differences between the colors so well yourself that you won't, you'll be like, you'll just go, oh yeah, I know exactly why this is acting like that and this is acting like this. So obviously he grabbed that blue. He grabbed ultramarine blue that time because it dulled down that color instead of making it more minty green, right? And those are the things that will come over time and you'll understand. But at the beginning, it's like, you don't know that. So you kind of have to hear the explanation a little bit more clearly and use the exact same color.
Definitely. And this, I feel like this applies a little more to drawing, but I think it applies to painting too. I remember I used to have this misconception, like good artists never copy and they never use references. And that's so not true. Like the people who are drawing comics for Marvel and stuff like that, they have like dozens of references open at any given time, but they're so good at taking those things and making them their own and using that to inform it in a way that looks realistic and convincing. So
I didn't know that. Is that true?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And animators, like, yeah, they use real references all the time.
That's so interesting. I think that's, to me, that's really interesting because it's a little bit of what I'm doing here.
Yes,
in that
exactly.
It's so stylized at this point, at least, that you might not know that it's from a real reference photo, but
exactly,
you're getting enough ideas from something that you can veer off to the side.
Exactly.
It's easier in a lot of ways to veer off from an actual reference photo than it is to make up everything.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And you know, there'll be artists like you, Jed. They'll have like 4 or 5 different forest scenes open that kind of fit the mood that they're going for, and they kind of like, yeah.
That's really interesting. I don't do that very much, like the multiple reference photos, but I can understand because I have done it a couple times where I have maybe a composition or an idea from one reference, but then I really like the colors or the lighting in another one, and so I'll try to grab that.
I think it happens a lot more with character artists because they're like, oh, I want this pose, but a little bit of this pose, and I also want them to be wearing this stuff, so they might have like an armor reference open, and then another reference that's like just the pose.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's funny because I never have really thought about what goes into that type of artwork.
Mm-hmm.
It's so different.
Yeah.
But you need, I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you need?
Well, because, and that was kind of freeing for me because I was like, dude, even the masters aren't like, you have to come up with everything from imagination because that's such an impossibly high bar. And even the masters, you know, they're like, no, we're still trying to get it to be as believable and realistic as possible with our own expertise added to it. And, you know, you can do that by constantly looking at life and then interpreting it with your own eye and your own skill.
Yeah, that's helpful. It's helpful to know, right? I mean, that's a great example of an unrealistic expectation, right?
Exactly.
Where you've set a bar higher than anybody actually really lives. You know, it's like and it's also probably part of where intimidation, oh, they're so amazing. They do this and this and this. Like, you don't even know. Like, one thing that I've seen, and it's just very interesting, because I think the purest form of painting in my eyes is plein air painting. Because if you want to see if somebody really knows how to, paint, take them out of the studio and put them in front of a scene that is going to change in a little while, and see if they can do it, like, see how well that works out for them. Because it's a totally different thing than having a computer in front of you like I do right now, and painting from an image that, is not going to change. And I have I have lots of stuff. Now, what I'm doing is a little different, but I mean, I could have taken this image. I could have run it through a program. I could have made it look like a painting. I could have done all sorts of things that essentially would mean in the end that I'm just duplicating it, right? I'm not doing anything. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's kind of like, we think that every artist is the most pure talent in the world, right? And I think we can intimidate ourselves with these kind of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
definitely
it was because I talk to different people and have seen different artists and the way that they work. And even at plein air competitions, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that you took that painting back to your room and spent all night working on that so that you could turn it in to the judge, and they still consider it plein air, because this event has very loose definitions of that, right? And I'm like, man, I was sweating outside, trying to get my painting done. And you just realize, like, okay, there's just different, and again, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. The rules don't say you have to do it my way at that competition.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we can think, my goodness, like, look at what they did. They did that outside. Well, actually, maybe they did that outside in 3 hours, or maybe they spent 8 hours in their room at night and you don't know it.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, artists will capture like the soul of the scene outside and then go back to the studio and like refine it and make it into something that's more like.
Exactly. So the point is, don't necessarily set the bar so high for yourself that you get intimidated because you think everybody else is doing it so differently than me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Maybe you can use some of those. Maybe you can use a reference photo when you're drawing your character, Peter.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this is one of the kind of layers of background that I'm putting in. And I think I'm going to do even a little bit more after this. But this is what I think is actually, it's kind of time consuming to do some of this, because it's like, you really have to think about where you're putting these different trees in the background and everything. But it's pretty fun, because you can just use what's back there, and by changing the value a little bit behind it, you can create a whole different layer of trees. And then I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to create another layer of trees back there.
Yeah, I always feel like your forest paintings with scenes like this are your most methodical, for sure.
They can be pretty slow.
I'd love to try plein air. It's a goal. Yeah, go for it. Do it right now. Go sit up on your lawn.
Yeah.
Nothing's stopping you.
Plein air is fun. It's super fun. And what you'll find is it's also very challenging.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. It's one of the more challenging ways to paint. But the fun is a big part of the fun for me is, man, there's a memory attached to that painting forever.
Mm-hmm.
You will never forget where you were, what you were doing. You know, I mean, obviously you're outside painting, but what I mean is like the way that the wind was, and did you get bit by a mosquito? You know, all this kind of stuff is just going to be fresh in your mind the entire, anytime you think about that painting, you'll know you've got a distinct memory associated with it.
June is plein air month. You're right.
Yep, coming up.
You're right about that.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to work my way over here a little bit more. Not as much, but actually, I think I will. I'll fill in a little bit more over here too. So I just like the layers.
Vicky asks the question. She says, do you do thumbnail sketches before painting?
Good question, Vicky. I used to a lot more. That's and I teach to do it. But if I'm outside, yes, I generally will, or I will at least like look through a kind of like viewfinder or something. I'm pretty intentional about what I'm going to try to paint. A lot of what I've found now, what I do is I actually will, if I'm painting, I guess it could be a lesson, it could be almost anything, but I really think a lot about the composition in the photograph. And if I need to change something, I have a pretty good idea of what I should change before I start the painting. And sometimes that involves a thumbnail sketch, and sometimes it doesn't, but it definitely is a big part. The design is a huge part of the process for me. And really that's what the thumbnail sketch is all about. It's really just all about getting a good design. And so it depends on what it is, and it depends on how much I need it to be a really, really, good design. If I'm doing a commission for somebody or anything like that, I'm definitely going to be doing a pretty thorough sketch of the scene, and any kind of composition issues will be worked out before I ever start it. And they're going to agree that, the design is good before I start.
Yeah. It was refreshing to hear that when Diana said when she started Plein Air, she hid, found a place where nobody would see her.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, wasn't it?
Bro, oh yeah, and I was just listening. I wasn't on, but I was laughing so hard at the Bob Ross thing because, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. What did she say? I can't remember exactly what she said.
She said, inevitably some old chap will come along and say something like, "What are you doing?" And I'm painting. And it's like, "Oh, Bob Ross could have painted that in 30 minutes."
Oh yeah, that was what it was.
Yes, he could have.
That's so funny.
It's so funny. But even for me, dude, every time I tell people, I'm like, yeah, like I work with a company and we teach people how to paint online. They're like, oh, like Bob Ross.
Yeah. I know. Well, it's, at least people have a reference point, right? Like, you don't have to explain what art is. They have Bob Ross to look at.
Yeah. And then I tell them the joke about you being anti-Bob Ross, and they always think that's funny.
Oh, yeah. You need to explain that for people.
Jed's bald, so he's like the reverse of Bob Ross. Bob Ross had tons of hair. Jed has no hair, at least on his head.
Yeah. I'm the antithesis of Bob Ross in that way. But, you know, I think I told you, Peter, I was looking back at some Bob Ross videos recently because I think it was, I don't know if it was on Netflix or what, but they just showed up for me. And so I watched his very first one ever. I told you that, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I was kind of amazed at how much I thought, man, he's essentially doing what I am trying to do.
Yeah.
Also, like, he's encouraging people. He's telling them, he's showing them how to do something. And then he's really strong on the encouragement part. You know, he's really trying to help people understand that they don't have to be intimidated with art, you know, that they can, you know, with a few simple supplies and tools, you know, they could do it themselves. And it was interesting because and like I said, it was the first ever episode. And so it was kind of like you kind of he probably was explaining a few more things than he might later on. Yeah. Because he was just figuring it out himself and trying to encourage people. But yeah, I liked it. It was very interesting.
Doug says someone gave me a Bob Ross toaster that burns his face on bread, a Bob Ross bobblehead, Bob Ross mints, and knowing I'm not a fan.
Knowing I'm not a fan, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I know people are, yeah. I honestly don't know much about him. No disrespect or anything like that. Just funny because at this point, every time I tell somebody, I know they'll say Bob Ross, and I'm like, yeah. Everyone says that.
Well, it is interesting for sure. Yeah. I think that one of the more interesting things, and we've probably talked about this before, but I mean, people will go to sleep listening to him because he's so soothing to them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because they listened to him when they were kids or something like that, or if it's just the sound of his voice or what, but crazy.
Very crazy.
Okay, I'm trying to lay in this third layer of stuff. What do you got there?
Doug says, now having a Jed Dorsey toaster, that would really be something.
Oh, man.
That would crack me up, dude.
See, how do you get to be, I mean, how would you ever imagine Bob Ross? Like, he could not have dreamed of being wildly popular as he is. I mean, that's wild.
Oh, I know.
But like, who makes a toaster with somebody's? I mean, can you name anybody else in the world that has a toaster that burns their face into the toast? I honestly, maybe there's somebody somewhere.
I'm sure they do somewhere. Capitalism.
Yeah, but who? I mean, for real.
I don't know. It's true.
I mean, you'd be like such a crazy famous person, and just thinking like that there's like Bob Ross, he made it, man. I mean, he made it.
Someone said Batman. Someone said Star Wars.
That's my thought is I can't think of, oh, so do you really know that those things are there? Yeah, they probably are. But okay, an artist.
Yeah.
An artist is on the same level.
No, I know. Yeah. Dude, it's so crazy. Maybe this is our like mission, guys. But it's crazy to me that, yeah, I mean, he's like the artist. But it's so funny that I feel like everyone views, like the mainstream views fine art as like, yeah, exactly. Like I could never do that. Or, oh, that's totally like, that's an alien world.
Well, one thing that I think is kind of cool with what he did is he really did. Like you're saying, he brought it into the mainstream, and people probably who never would have ever tried painting actually did painting. And I can think, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've been to people's houses and looked at their work before, or a relative's work of theirs, and they'll explain to me, yeah, our aunt, watched Bob Ross stuff, and so they have all these paintings, and it's like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Someone said the sad thing about Bob Ross merch is that his family doesn't see a red cent of it.
Really? Is that true? That is sad.
Yeah. If it's true, that is sad.
Man, how that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
I thought I heard that all of his paintings, I thought his family was involved. That's what is throwing me off right now.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that his daughters, I thought he had somebody that was kind of in charge of it, but I could be wrong. I did watch a documentary one time, a long, long, long time ago.
Yeah, I thought so too. Vicky says, yes, his business partners betrayed him and his family. Holly says, totally true. Watch the documentary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Sad.
That's crazy. That is sad. One of those stories that you wish wasn't true.
Yeah. His old partner sued his son for the business and won.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Crazy.
I do need to watch that documentary. Probably. See, I think the one that I watched was relatively short. It probably wasn't even a full-on documentary. It was just this thing that kind of talked about, like, I learned a bit about his filming of the shows and different stuff like that. It was quite fascinating to me at the time, I remember. But it didn't go into any of that legal stuff or really tell much of the story. It was just
Gotcha.
kind of short.
There are a ton of his paintings just sitting in a warehouse, says Gretchen.
That's what I thought, was that there was, like, almost all of his paintings are still there. Now, please, I hope that his family has those. I don't know.
Yeah. For real.
We're all kind of, maybe we need to take a fundraiser for Bob Ross's family.
Yeah. Will there be a taped version? Yes, this will be taped and recorded. There will be.
It's being recorded right now. If it's on YouTube, it's recorded.
Yes. And this one I don't think we'll hide.
Yeah. We usually let these celebration bonus kind of things, they're just for fun. Okay, a few yellow trees in there. They're kind of crazy looking right now.
Someone says, Jed, how did you get the idea to start AU?
Okay, well, I became a full-time artist. I was living in Indiana, and I needed to grow. And I was looking for people I could take acrylic workshops from. Because for a little while, I thought all the artists I know who are professional paint in oil. And I was going to switch to oil. And then a friend of mine said, Jed, you're really good with what you do. You shouldn't switch. You should just get better. And so I was looking into the workshops, like where could I learn from a really good acrylic painter? And this was 2016, around there. And I couldn't find anybody. The people that I reached out to they either didn't respond, they were really far away, they weren't doing workshops, and there were really only a few people that I found. Now, like I've explained before, if I did that again, I know more people now. I could find somebody now easier than I was, than I could then. But back then there weren't as many options. And so that was the first thing. Second thing was I was trying to figure out how to support my family when we moved from Indiana, where I had really amazing situation. I had a really cheap studio. I had just a bunch of things that were that made it the transition to being a full-time artist. It actually helped because of our setup. Our housing was really cheap and all sorts of stuff. And we moved back to Washington State, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going to go. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I started thinking about how could I make a more sustainable income. We left all of my collectors back in Indiana, and I'm trying to, provide. And I started thinking, well, I'm teaching classes, and that's going well. So that was like the first thought. We were teaching classes at our studio, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then I started thinking, man, when I was trying to learn how to paint in acrylics, there was nobody close by that could teach me. And I thought, I bet that there are people around the world that are like me that want to learn. I don't know what other people teach in their courses really, because I've only, in terms of online courses, I've been a part of a couple, but not a ton. And so I didn't know exactly if what I was doing was offer, but I hadn't seen it. And I was like, man, I feel like there are other people that would be in the same boat as me. They want to learn how to paint landscapes. They want to learn how to paint realistic stuff, but they want to learn, they want to learn from somebody that they like. And that was my thing, is I didn't want to just take any class. I wanted to learn from somebody that I really liked. And I started putting feelers out there on Instagram and stuff like that, and started kind of asking, and I started getting, good feedback. And then I met this, actually some of that happened after I met this woman on a trip who had a subscription service, like a subscription based membership type thing. And it all started making sense to me. And I came home, that was right around the time that maybe a month or two before I met Peter and all, or actually, I might have known you at that point already. I can't remember. Anyways, it was just like all these things kind of happened at the same time. And I knew that this was probably something that other people wanted, but we didn't really know. We were just hopeful about it. And it was about, I can't remember, I'm forgetting now, but it's probably like 2.5 years of really hard work with basically zero benefit besides getting to know a lot of cool people through members and stuff like that. But it wasn't like I was just doing commissions on the side, and just with the dream that Acrylic University someday this will be a feasible thing, and maybe we'll be able to get paid someday from Acrylic University and not just my commissions. But yeah, that was kind of the start of it, if that answered your question.
Someone asks, where in Indiana?
Oh, we lived right downtown in Holy Cross neighborhood. And I worked at Arsenal Tech High School for some of the time when we were there. And then, well, we lived in the old north side when we were first there. That's also downtown, but a little bit different area. My brother was living there. That was one of the reasons we were there. He has since moved back here. In fact, he was the one who left first. We stayed for a couple more years.
Did you go back? Someone asked why you went back, and I said it was because of your mom. Is that true?
Yeah. My mom got cancer, and well, that was the reason my brother left. That was the first reason, and then when they were gone, I had been working for Young Life, which is an organization that works with high school kids, and then I had become a full-time artist, and I was thinking, well, we're not, directly connected to Young Life here anymore. We could live anywhere. And we started thinking about that a lot because we didn't have family there, and we had a daughter, and we knew that our parents would love to spend more time with their granddaughter. And we started thinking, well, in art, man, you could live anywhere. And we made the move. But like I said, we left a lot of great things in Indiana. And so I'm super thankful. I'm so thankful that we live close to family. You can't really put a price tag on that or anything like that. But there were some cool things that I do miss about Indiana. But being in Washington, the scenery's definitely one of the big pluses besides being close to family. There's a lot to paint here. You don't have to go very far to see something really beautiful. Kind of changing the angle of this tree. I don't like it very much.
Mary asks, Jed, do you normally not paint wet into wet? Seems like you use your colors mixed from your palette. Fascinating to watch your technique.
Whatever you see me do now, probably what I normally do, pretty much. So I'm not sure. Some of this is kind of a little bit wet still, but if you see me doing something here, it's probably I'm not thinking about it, so it's probably what I do. If you know what I mean. Everything I'm doing right now is problem solving and subconscious. I'm like looking at the scene and just going, okay, where do I need to put color values, like that kind of thing. So I'm really mixing and doing all this totally subconsciously. Which means it's probably kind of what I normally do. Yeah, one of the I'll say this about starting Acrylic University. I thought that Acrylic University would be like people needed me. That was kind of like, this is going to be awesome. People will really benefit from my knowledge and my experience. And what I think I've come to realize more and more over time, and it didn't take very long to get this right out from the beta test that we did of our first ever Acrylic 101 course, was, you know what? We need people. I need people.
Yeah.
I need the community of Acrylic University. And it's been such a wonderful, wonderful blessing in our life, just to be able to connect to people. I mean, for those of you who were with us during COVID, I mean, that was a lifeline for us just as much as it was for anybody else.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's just carried on with the same kind of thing, right? Like where I gain probably more than you guys do from being part of Acrylic University. And I think having the team that we have, and what's kind of cool too is that a lot of the people who are on our team, well, I don't know if I should say a lot, but there's a little bit of a kind of like, yeah, I would say a lot. I mean, there's everybody who's a moderator for us was a member or is a member.
Yeah.
Everybody who, we have different people at different times, that just kind of, you realize, oh man, we need somebody who can help us with this. And then you think about it and you're like, well, who would know how to do that? And then you think, well, somebody who's a member, somebody who actually knows what we're about and cares, they would be really good at that. And so it's kind of cool because you realize that you have a community, people kind of all over, and it's pretty neat. It's actually really.
I second that for sure.
And every once in a while, you get to see people in real life, which is a extra special thing. When we do a workshop, there's people that will come from all over Florida, Boston, Montreal. And then there's a few that are just like, I'm down the road. I'm not too far at all. But it's like a really fun way because people will actually meet each other. Yeah. And a lot of times they've known each other for, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they've just never met. That they're like, oh, you're so-and-so. I talk with you all the time in the chat or in the Facebook group. Okay, so I'm kind of stepping back to look at this. I like some of this. I feel like some of this is kind of working the way I want. This line over here is a little bit sharp. And so I'm thinking about, well, I am adding in some light back there to kind of break up that line, but I don't know if it necessarily needs to be the yellow. I'm thinking some of this color, a few little dabs of color might work.
Shelly says, I've taken several online classes and tried subscription. They all fail in the same way. The community. There is no community like AU. That's awesome.
That is really awesome.
Yeah. We're honored, y'all.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is that it's the kind of thing where that happened a little bit by accident, I think. Yeah. I would say our accident, but in that, like, if everything had gone according to my plan and our hopes and dreams, we would have just had so many members right off the bat, and we would have totally failed as a community because nobody would have known each other. We would have just been kind of like random people who are somehow doing the same thing for a little while together, but I don't think any real meaningful connections would have been made.
Yeah.
Just because I think it would have been kind of, we didn't know what we're doing enough, and we didn't know anybody else. And I feel like it just wouldn't have worked. But we didn't know that. But our growth it was pretty slow, and it always has been. I mean, we've never had, like 1 million people join at one time or some crazy thing where you're like, oh my gosh. And I know that probably for some people who've been around a long time, you've seen influxes. Like when we do a launch, obviously we get a lot of new people that come in at one time. But the nice thing is that you all come in pretty much at the same time. And so we can kind of onboard people at the same time, and you can kind of get to know people at the same time, and you can get to know each other. And we did this event together. So there is some familiarity because you've been rubbing shoulders in a way with people who are members, and members will recognize you. And, it's a little less daunting, but again, if we'd grown at the rate that we were hoping for at the very beginning, I just think it would have been a totally different animal.
Agreed.
It wouldn't be as nice.
Agreed. Nah, for real. It's been a blessing that we've had to do it the right way. Yeah. Absolutely. When was the actual first year of AU?
2019.
Yep.
We started filming in 2018, but we didn't have anything to really look at until 2019. And it was, I believe, in April of 2019 that we did our beta test, and we had a few people go through the very first rendition of Acrylic 101, which doesn't exist anymore because we had to redo a lot of it after the beta test.
Like twice.
Yeah. And then we launched officially for a membership, what was the membership at the beginning, man?
It was basically the landscape modules plus like a Q&A, right? So we do like...
Oh, it was even less than that, bro. It was even less.
Was it just Acrylic 101 and stuff like that, basically?
Yeah, it was Acrylic 101, and we put out the Plein Air. We just did.
Oh, yeah.
that wasn't even there when we first launched. I don't think. I think that was like, oh, that'll be the next thing. And I think like in August, I think we launched in June, and by August we had the Plein Air thing on there. Yeah. But pretty much it was acrylic 101. That was our membership.
Yep. With a Q&A. Hey.
Well, we didn't even do that at first, man. Like
Really?
that. No, that wasn't even until later.
What were you doing?
Dude, I'm telling you, we were just trying to, I don't even know. Well, for one thing, we switched platforms because we started out on a different platform that was much harder to deal with. So that took a month of consistent hard work. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was just trial and error. But what I laugh at is, like, if you saw the membership at the beginning, I mean, it wasn't much. There wasn't a whole lot there. That fall we made Color 101. And then that winter we planned and we filmed, I think in December, I filmed the first of the landscape modules. And then that next year we did all the landscape modules.
Yep. That's right. That reminds me too, guys, if you want to see like what it was like in the early days, we actually have vlogs if you go to our YouTube videos and go way back, we have old vlogs.
Yeah. Good times.
Colleen says, when did Diana join AU as an instructor?
Okay, so then that would have been, so I'm thinking about that. That's a very good question. That would have been, I actually think that would have been 2000 and, man, I think that we did an interview with her, I think maybe at the end of 2019, because or I think I met her. Oh my goodness, this is weird. I'm like, I need to go back in a way and look, but I'm pretty sure that we filmed her first course with us, which was, it was probably in 2020. Yeah. I feel like it was in early 2020 or something like that. I think it was actually before COVID.
It was. Yeah. We were definitely working with her before COVID.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that she came up. It was snowy. That's one thing I remember is it was snowy, and because I remember going out to her car and getting some things, and it was just, kind of like tracking through the snow, and it wasn't really. Yeah, so that was probably January, February of 2020 when we did that, because it wasn't long after that, I don't think, that COVID kind of shut everything normal down. Yep.
COVID is like the new landmark in my brain. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
Is this before or after COVID?
Oh yeah, everything.
Yep.
I think everybody understands that it's a time in history none of us want to remember, but we can't forget.
Especially for real. Especially for me, because I met my wife in 2020. So I'm thinking like, oh yeah, she was fairly aware of what we were doing, and we were decently established. She'd come to like the Friday Night Lives and stuff. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's when we started doing live streams. Because I think you had brought up the idea before that. Yeah. Of doing live streams, but we didn't know. And actually, do you remember how one time we put out a survey of our members and we said, what would you like? Would you like
and we threw out a few different things, and nobody basically was very few people said anything about live streaming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And so we kind of thought, oh, okay, glad we asked that question, because we were kind of thinking that people might like that. But it turned out that actually, no, live streaming was really cool, especially maybe it was especially because of COVID. I don't know, but all I know is that became such a big part of what we do. But we kind of written it off right off the bat.
Yep. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, there's multiple things. I think it's different for our members, but for people who just like randomly scrolling YouTube, like what happened with Friday Night Live, it's super interesting. So the people we were surveying weren't even necessarily the people that ended up enjoying the live streams as much. Even though members still did, but we got a lot of new people found Acrylic University because of those live streams. But ultimately, to me, it just makes me go like, it's all just God's hands have been in it, and we didn't know what the frick we were doing. That's the truth, guys. We were just together, working together, trying to make it work, trying to serve you guys and make something that was worth your time and money. And somehow we ended up here.
Oh, that's the truth. That is totally the truth. I mean, if you guys, I don't know, not everybody here believes in God, and that's totally fine. I believe in God, and you wouldn't believe how little we know about what we're doing. I mean, I'm telling you, man, like, we wouldn't be here. There's no way. There's no way. We've definitely a million prayers. God, please help us. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what's up.
Seriously.
And that's the way I am with painting too. I just feel like I need as much help as I can possibly get. Like, give me, I need help, so I'm going to ask for it. That's my mentality.
Yep. I think we all need help, whether we admit it or not.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm getting to a place where I'm feeling like reasonably okay about this. I think that I actually want to do a tiny bit back there in the background. Back there. I think I just want to add a little bit of a lighter yellow or greenish color. Not to compete. I don't want to compete with the foreground, but I think that it could use a little bit of warmth.
Sounds good. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. When was the first master class? I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was 2021. Because we were like, because we launched, and then we had people that basically, it was mostly people we knew in person or word of mouth. And then after that, crickets. It was like a handful of people joined very early, and then we're like, and we naively thought, we built it, they'll come. Nope.
Yeah.
So then we had to figure out it's this thing called marketing. It's crazy.
Well, and it was through it was funny. I mean, guys, I can tell you stories upon stories upon stories of failure, fun failure. I mean, no joke. So actually, it's why there is a part of us that is like, man, I think we could help people with business stuff to some degree. Like we have failed 1,000 times, and we've learned 1,000 times, like, do this, don't do this. We still fail. I still, like, make mistakes all the time. Don't really know what I'm doing. Try something. Oops, screwed up that one up, but at the same time, we've at least learned some things along the way.
Yeah.
And one of the one of the, I don't even know where I was going to go with that, because I think I had something that I wanted to tell you, but I honestly went on the preamble for too long and forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, there's just so. Yeah, go ahead, Jed.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, like Jed said, we believe in God. There's just so many things. It's like there's no way that would have happened without somebody's hands in it. It's just
okay. I remembered what I was gonna say.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the things is, I mean, I threw out a ton of money one time. I borrowed. We had already gone through basically all of our savings, but had like just a tiny bit left in our savings account. That was from selling our house in Indiana. And so I'm like, okay, well, I pulled out like the last of it. And then I borrowed money from my mom. Here I am, like, I mean, can you imagine what that was like? I'm borrowing money from my mom. And as like I don't know how old I was, 43, 44, I don't know, 45, something like that. I don't know. Anyways, and we hired a marketing agency to do this marketing stuff for us. I had to pay all of it up front, and it was going to be done for you. You don't even have to do anything. It was awful. It was so hard. All that money gone. Like, it was basically gone with like very, 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 very little benefit for us.
Yeah.
One of the only benefits was that we met another guy like through the process that ended up being able to help us later down the road. But it was totally disconnected from that. It was just that we met him. And that was the one blessing out of that.
Yep.
The other blessing was realizing that,
Don't do that again.
Yeah, you learn as you do things. But the thing that happened after that was I would say that through that, like, action is always better than inaction.
Yes, exactly.
Doing something is always better than just thinking about. And so, Yes, we screwed up. I probably shouldn't have done that thing. But you know what we did? We took action. I was doing something. And in the process of doing I thought it was going to go this way, and that totally didn't work. But we hit the wall, and we veered off this way, and something actually did happen that direction. One of the things was, during the process of working with that company, I had the idea of the miniature painting challenge. And that also came through talking with members and getting feedback. But that turned into one of the first things that actually worked was the miniature painting challenge. And because it kind of worked, I had just enough money to hire a coach that was an artist and that knew more about stuff than we did. And I sat in one like session with that guy, and Renee and I were there, and I'm like, how do you do this? How do you run Facebook ads? And it doesn't make sense to me. And I like didn't understand. And he goes, oh, well, I do it like this. We do these launches, and I do this thing and this and that, and like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hey, I'm doing one coming up. If you want to be part of it, you can just watch, and I'll explain anything later if you want to know more. And so this is all coming out because somebody asked, when was our first launch? This was April of 2021.
Yes.
And watch this guy's launch. And he does something similar to what we do, except we've totally adapted and changed it. And we do different stuff. He's a coach. We're more like, we teach people how to paint.
Yes.
But I took screenshots of everything that he did. I taped everything that he did. I mean, I literally was like all in on that. And then we shared it with the team. We hired another person to help us, like project manager. Because it was like, it's me, Peter, and Renee. And I'm like, none of us are going to be able to do this. Like, we can't do this. We need somebody who's going to actually like guide us towards this desired end. And this woman named Kelly came on and helped us, and she kind of like was the backbone of structure for us. And then we launched our first ever masterclass was September of 2021, and it was such a good time. It was so fun. But I have to say this, it was also like, I mean, come on, Peter, like we didn't know what we're doing, and we made so many, like, I think if you went back to those, I don't even know if I'd want to watch them. If you remember, you can go back and you can look at them, because they were like, they're in the one of those paint along lesson, masterclass replays. You could probably go all the way back and you could be like, whoa, this was plodding along. This was slow. This was, I'm not saying that they were terrible, but they were definitely, we've improved them because we've gotten a lot of feedback. You get 1,000, 2,000, 20,000 people into something. I mean, we've had some of these launches where we have 19,000 people register. Yeah. And not everybody shows up, of course, right? Like that's part of it. But we've had 3,000 people in a launch at the same time watching a live stream. You get a lot of feedback real quick when you have that many people doing something.
Oh yeah.
Man, we've had launches where there's a lot of negative feedback, man, and you're going, woo, I guess we need to change something in there.
Yep. We so true. We had one time where legit and this was early too. This was like, we're still in like the, I don't know. And we get people there. The platform we were streaming on at the time had some sort of bug that just cut Jed's mic out for literally like 15, 18 minutes. We had no idea what was going on. And we're like, no, you can't be serious. I think we we actually ended that stream and started a new one.
We did.
And there's so many things, guys. Like,
Beth is nice. She says they were never terrible, but man, have you grown in your ability to do this online thing? And double UC says, I will miss this. Thank you to each and every one of you guys. Kat says, I work for a financial software company and our growth path is very similar to what you described. That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of similarities between a lot of businesses and a lot of ventures. You're just trying to do something and you're trying to figure it out. I think like what's happened now, I think if you were to get inside of my brain more and more and more over time, this is what it's about. I'm like more and more dedicated to you. I go, and Peter is too. Like all of us, we're like, what can we do to serve our people better? How can we make their experience the best possible? What's missing from what we offer? And so as I think about what I'm doing and the future, that's where my brain is just like, okay, let's make Acrylic University the very best that it can be. Let's continue to grow that. Is there anything else we could do? And like one of the thoughts is, are there people who need, like a different kind of coaching, right? Or a different kind of what is it? And we're getting feedback from people all the time. So, but that's why we value you so much, is that you are the answer to the questions that we're asking. You know what I mean? Like we're going, what do people need? You know what you need more than we do. And we're just here to say, we want to serve you. We want to help you grow, whatever that looks like. If you're not a member of Acrylic University, this is your last night. So sign up. I don't know, Peter, you want to pull that up if you have that? Want to?
Do that.
But, and I'm going to say bye to people.
Absolutely. And really quick, I just want to go back to the thing you said that's so important is, yes, I look back on it. There's so many things that we were doing wrong, quote unquote. Like I'd look back at what we were doing now and I'm like, what were you doing? But we were doing something. And that's not true just for business. It's also true for your artwork and any pursuit that you want. You're like, okay, I want to get there. I want to do this. The time will pass either way. Will you do something? That's the question. The time's going to pass either way. Oh, it's going to take so long. Yeah, the time's going to pass either way. What are you going to do in the meantime? And so that's the one thing I'm like, yes, I'm proud of us for. We stuck our necks out there and we did something. And I encourage you guys to do the same thing with whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, guys, thank you for your encouragement. What Peter's saying is totally the whole thing. Like I was saying earlier, action always trumps inaction. So some of you, I know right now there's probably still somebody on here that's on the fence. Mm-hmm. And you're like, maybe tomorrow. And you're thinking you're not making a decision or something like that. You're like, well, I just won't decide right now. Well, actually, every indecision is a decision. Mm-hmm. You're like, just say no. Say no and move that direction. Or say, like, aim at something. That's the thing. Aim at something. I don't care if you join Acrylic University. I just want you to realize and recognize, no, you have something that's good. You have a creative voice that is unique. And dang, painting is fun when you get the hang of it. Painting can be really, really great pastime. Painting can be super good for your mental, outlook. Like, that's why there's something called art therapy, right? I mean, there's something good that it kind of taps into our deeper person, our soul, and that. I just want you to know, go for it. Do something. Make a plan. If your plan is to go on YouTube and watch a video every week, do it. Just write it down, set it as a goal, and stick to it. Yep. If you don't have a good path, then that's why we're inviting you in. I don't know of another path that's quite as good as what we offer. If there is one out there, tell me about it, and I'm going to try to copy what they're doing.
Yep. Bye, Judy.
But anyways, guys, yeah, like we want you to believe in yourself. That's what I want. I want you to believe in yourself and to know that you're worth investing time and energy into developing the gift that you have.
Yep.
And we want you to grow. We want to see you grow. Yeah, super awesome. What a fantastic experience. I've been sharing AU with many of my friends. Thank you, Jed and Peter, for this opportunity. Sue, thank you also. We're super excited about that.
Yeah.
I called my friend last night so she would talk me out of signing up for AU. So I signed up. That's so funny. Yeah. Funny. Well, like Gretchen said, join and get your money back. If you change your mind, just
yep.
Write us an email.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, because that's kind of true. I mean, like I actually don't care if somebody asks for their money back. I really don't. I mean, if you know that you don't want to be a member, but you're just going to I'm just going to get my 30 days. That's totally fine. I don't really care about that either. Because if that's your attitude about stuff, I don't think that's going to serve you very long term, but it's no skin off my back. Like, I don't care if you go 29 days and you, from the very beginning, were never intending to actually really join.
Yep.
It doesn't matter to me. But I think the more important thing is just like knowing who you are and being like, this is the direction I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. I saw something that said I'm an inspiration. Hey, that's awesome. Caillou, is that how you say your name? Caillou? Caillou, you are an inspiration. I am retired but busy taking care of my aged in-laws. I long for the day I can join AU. Caillou, totally. And we understand that too. There will be a time when it will work. And if it be today, that's good. You at least are going, I can't today. Like, there's obligations. I have this in my life. We know that there are seasons, there are stages, there are phases of life. Yeah. And honestly, sometimes we just can't figure out how to make it all happen at the same time, and that's okay. Jay says, I joined 2021, probably the first masterclass, hands down, one of the best things I've done for myself ever. That's so cool, man.
Jay, yeah, I recognize you.
I know, Jay. It's funny because like every once in a while, I swear we've had members who have the same name or people who've had the same name. There's somebody right now. I'm not going to say the name because I was like looking at somebody's name the other day and I'm like, oh, I know who you are. And then I realized it was somebody else who had the same name.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, it's not the same person. So I'm glad I didn't say anything. But it's funny because like your name is like one of those names. Since 2021, man, that's a long time. That's almost 4 years ago. First ever masterclass. That's awesome. Okay. Din says, I haven't done a mini challenge. I don't understand why to paint so tiny. Are they landscapes? Well, some of them are like, the first one I ever did was 6x6. I've done 8x8s. Dinah's done 10x10s. Brian Buckrell's were 12x12s. We call them mini challenges. There's nothing miniature about them except the size of the painting. But if you wanted to do them bigger, you could too. Yeah. So,
and the reason, one thing I told him is the reason they're small is because they're just supposed to be approachable.
You answered that.
Yeah. It's easier. It's less scary if it's like, okay, I'm just going to paint this little scene once a week, 30 minutes, right? As opposed to like, you're going to do a 12x16 and, so.
Karen says, thanks, Jed and Peter. Very nice to give us another class. You guys are the best. Thank you, guys. Dorothy says, thanks so much. I was surprised by the text to join today. Everyone was so gracious on the Facebook page and they were kind and helpful. You know what? You guys are, Michelle says, I joined September 2022 and it was an answer to my prayers. Awesome. No regrets. I love doing minis. They're the best. Yes. Okay. This is the first like really practical thing. I'll switch back.
Yeah.
To my other screen real quick. There it is. And you know what? There's a couple things here that I don't like. I don't like the way that I want to clean that up a little bit. I will come back in here, do a little bit here. And honestly, there's probably going to be more that I'll tweak and deal with because like a lot of times in the painting process, you get so absorbed into it and I can't see it all like at the same time. Like it might be that I take something out or I, simplify, a different area, or maybe this needs a little bit more to draw us into the painting. And sometimes that just is hard to do live and in person, live while we're doing a live stream. But that's what it looks like right now.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay.
All right.
What year begin the Acrylic University? We already answered that, but that was 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you guys so much. You guys are authentic. I'm so happy to be part of this program. Mel, we're glad that you're here and we appreciate you. Iovanka says, I was guided to leave my profession in less than a month. I was guided to AU. I knew that was divine intervention. All right, good, guys. Well, that's the place to go. acrylicuniversity.com/membership. If you're not a member and you're on the fence and you want to make that leap, this is your time. But guys, we want you to know you are loved and you are believed in.
Yep.
Go make some great paintings and we will see you guys next time.
Yep. Love you guys. Good night, everybody.